It's Tuesday, December 8th, and you're watching The Great Loss Rewatch. Today we're talking about Every Man for Himself. This is a Sawyer-centric episode, and his flashback takes place when he's serving a prison sentence for conning Cassidy. There's a new inmate in the prison named Munson who has stolen $10 million from the government. Warden wants this $10 million, and Sawyer offers to help Munson move the money so he can't get his hands on it, but actually Sawyer is just conning him and giving the information to the warden so he can get out of jail and get a nice commission. While doing this, Cassidy comes to visit him in prison, and we learn that Sawyer has a daughter named Clementine. Instead of taking the commission that he gets from the $10 million, he opens up a bank account in Clementine's name. On the island, Desmond says that there's something wrong with Claire's roof, and he's really kind of pushing her to move down the beach just for tonight, but Charlie's like, no, I'm a man, I'm her man, and I will take care of her. And he builds this sort of tower with a golf club on top of it, and he grounds it into the sand, and sure enough, a storm starts, and lightning strikes. Meanwhile, Jack's having a grand old time in the Hydra watching cartoons. Juliet comes to visit him, and Jack starts to mess with her, basically calling her, Ben's bitch. And Juliet says, that's not how it works here. No one's really in charge. We all make decisions together, which is such a lie. Speaking of Ben, he barges in and there's an emergency. Colleen, as we saw in The Glass Ballerina, has been shot. Juliet is called in to try and save her life, but she really is not a surgeon, as she says, so eventually they resort to getting Jack in and trying to help. But it's too little too late, and Colleen dies. Also, really important to note, on the way to the operating room, Jack sees x-rays of a spine that has a very large tumor on it. Jack asks Juliet about the spinal x-rays, saying, seriously, there's these spinal x-rays out and I just happen to be a spinal surgeon. Who am I here to save? Meanwhile, Sawyer's working on a plan to escape. He gets some puddle in front of his cage and he's going to use the electric charge from the polar bear feeding machine to shock whoever comes to his cage, and it turns out that it's Ben, but they've turned off the power to his machine because of course they have cameras. Ben pulls out that really lethal stick of his and he beats Sawyer to unconsciousness. And when Sawyer wakes up, he's on some kind of table and they have a very large needle and they stab him with it. Ew, ew, ew. When he wakes up, Ben brings in a bunny with the number 8 on it and he starts to shake his cage.
Hey.
Stop that.
Hey, come on.
Stop that.
Hey, come on.
Stop it.
Come on. Let's move it.
You're freaking me out. Stop it.
Come on. Hey!
And Ben kills a bunny. Like, Ben just killed a bunny. Ben just might as well have one of those very long, windy mustaches tying the maiden to the railroad tracks, Ben says that they put a pacemaker in the bunny and that when the heart rate accelerated to a certain level, it exploded the heart. And they said that they put one in Sawyer. They give him a heart rate monitor and say, oh yeah, you can't say anything to Kate or we're going to put one in her too. So Kate notices the difference in Sawyer. His spirit is down and they're not talking about escaping anymore. And then Pickett comes after Colleen dies and, he's upset and he takes it out on poor Sawyer. He's beating Sawyer in front of Kate's cage, yelling, do you love him? Do you love him? And Kate says, yes, I love him! I love him! Hooray! Kate loves him!
I only said that so he'd stop hitting you.
Or maybe not. No, she really does. She just doesn't like to show her emotions. Kate's had enough of mopey Sawyer, and she conveniently can squeeze out of the polar bear cage all of a sudden. That's something that always kind of bothered me. Sawyer says, no, you've got to take this chance to run. It's every man for himself, Freckles. But then Kate goes back into her polar bear cage and says, live together, die alone. Obviously, huge fan of the show. Love the writers. But is it just me, or is it just a lot of lines in this episode were just really kind of corny? The next morning, Ben wakes up Sawyer and says, come for a walk with me. On this walk, Ben shows Sawyer the bunny, saying that there was no pacemaker and we did this to get your respect because the only way that a con man respects someone else is when he gets conned. But more importantly, Ben reveals to Sawyer that they are on another island entirely.
That's your island. The one you've come to know and love.
I just wanted you to know there's nowhere to run.
I was never a huge fan of the idea of having another island. I know a huge complaint from fans and critics is that season 3, like the beginning of it, kind of tends to dance around a lot, and I would agree. And this was just, for me, an example of, boy, they're really kind of dancing around. Oh, and then there's another island, But that's where we're going to leave it today, with no chance of escaping. I'm back tomorrow to talk about the cost of living, so I'll see you guys then.
We're gonna need to watch that again.